Alrighty, a very, very, very happy Wednesday and welcome to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is May 20th of 2026. I hope everyone is having themselves a good hump day. We're halfway through the week, and we're going to have a lot of great conversations today in the sports world. We'll talk about the Cincinnati Reds as they have this rubber game matchup with the Philadelphia Phillies coming up here in about an hour or so. You can check out the game on Reds TV or listen to it on WOW 700. They have a chance to go in for a series win uh, after a nice victory yesterday. So we'll talk about that, take a look at what's going on around the National League Central. Then we'll jump into the NBA, NHL playoffs, give you update scores and upcoming schedules for the playoffs here in the month of May. We'll give you a breakdown of what happened yesterday. If you haven't been able to tune into Big 12 action, well, they're out in Arizona, and it's Big 12 baseball tournament right now, presented by Allstate. And so a couple games took place yesterday. The winners of those games they will play on today and our Cincinnati Bearcats, their game against Arizona State is tomorrow. So we'll talk about that. I got some WWE conversations, news updates, and I want to get down into the hard and biting question as we continue to put the pieces together for Brock Lesnar, right? He returned on Monday after aimlessly retiring back at WrestleMania 42. He wants a rematch to Obafemi. And I want to look at it in a couple of different point of views. So that's what I expected to do today. Also, later on at the back end of this program today, um, CBS Sports put out another article, updated article about the AFC offseason. So we'll take a look uh, at the AFC North Division. Let's see where grades sit at today. And I like to finish off with the NFL primetime schedule. Take a look at who's in prime time, who's not, and what matches are you looking forward to here in the upcoming schedule. So a lot to get down into. I want to start things off. Okay, I want to start things off talking about the Cincinnati Reds. Uh, Philadelphia, they're a really good team. Re-signing, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, JT Romito, Trey Turner. Let's not forget about the pitching. Aaron Nola, Lizardo, I mean, Philadelphia is that true candidate. They've been a contender in the postseason for quite some time. And, I don't understand exactly what took place. I know earlier this offseason, they parted ways with Nick Castellanos, and he's up in San Diego. And that's his own prerogative that Philadelphia, I feel, avoided. Whatever happened with their relationship, they moved on, and Philadelphia's been able to move on to that. Well, the Phillies didn't start off to a hot start like they wanted to do. And when you got teams like the Braves who is trying to reestablish their mark in the National League East, it is important to collect yourself, get ahead of the game, and make changes. And I think if you look back overall in Major League Baseball today, this season, teams are not afraid to make substantial moves to their organization to better themselves or determine whether or not they are going to be a team contending in September. I mean, the Cincinnati Reds have made this clear indication, and they're not afraid to make moves, moving players that are not performing. It's kind of been the entity of Major League Baseball in 2026. It did come, though, from a shocking surprise that the that the Philadelphia Phillies moved on from Rob Thompson after a slow start. They bring up Don Mattingly to be the interim GM. And for the past 2 weeks or so since his arrival, the Phillies have they won every series. So when the Reds head into a series like this, where for their Red standards, they're trying to turn things around. They're desperately trying to turn things. They're trying to pull out every stop their moves. They, sent down Marte. They bring up Hines. They DFA'd PJ Higgins. You know, they brought up Blake Dunn at some point. I mean, the Reds are trying. Jose Franco, they sent down um just all these players. It's baffling to see the amount of transactions. Not because someone's injured, because the progression and the performance on the field. Well, we take that and we look at how the Reds move forward, and they head into a series like the Phillies, who's on a hot streak, who's playing decent baseball. They're in second place in the NL East, and it feels good to knowing that we didn't get sweep this series. Feels good to know that we have an opportunity this afternoon to go for a series win, which I think is we're desperately needing of a series win. And to beat a good team right now in baseball, which I feel like will take a lot off the Reds' shoulders. Last night, the Reds beat the Phillies 4-1, the final score. Chase Burns went through 6 innings, giving up 3 hits, 1 run on 9 strikeouts. A phenomenal performance. Tony Santion came in and he gave a 2 strikeout save to end the ball game. And yesterday has been one of the few days, but you still recognize a day like a victory like yesterday because the Reds completed a game. It was a complete game from starting pitching to offense on the field, defensive plays to closing out the ball game. The things that we struggle so desperately on here, we were able to succeed. And now we have a chance to go in for a series win on the road. If we can pick up a victory today, 105 first pitch, game 3 of this 3-game series available on Reds TV or by tuning into WOW 700. The Reds 25-24. They move up to 4th place in the NL Central. They're taking on the 25-24 Phillies, who are in 2nd place in the NL East. Same record. Okay. Left-handed pitcher Andrew Abbott will be called on the mound today for the Red Legs. He's 3-2 with a 4.21 ERA. Last pitched last Friday night against Cleveland on the road. He went 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Aaron Nola, right-handed pitcher, 2 for 3 in the so far this year, 5.91 ERA. He also pitched last Friday against the Pirates on the road. He had a bad outing. 3 and 2/3 of an inning, giving up 6 hits, 6 runs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. So I personally feel heading into this game, it's attack the pitcher. I think it's work the count, but be aggressive. And you know, I'm going to go into it. We have the a equal opportunity at winning these games. It's not who we have on the field uh, is not maybe not the same star power as what Philadelphia has, but be taking a series against a good team like Philadelphia, against a team like the Phillies who've been playing in the playoffs the last couple years, can really provide some confidence, some bold confidence this organization needs. Now I'll tell you, the Reds need some confidence. They'll be tomorrow. Both teams will have an off day. They'll be headed home. Uh, Philadelphia will remain home, while we will also see Cincinnati head home. Guess what? We're hosting the Cardinals 3-game quick turnaround at Great American Ballpark. We'll head out to New York, to Flushing, New York, to take on the Mets next week. Uh, Before another day off on Thursday. So a series win can really help this organization right now. Well, it got me thinking. Okay, how important is it to give titles to and roles to these athletes, and how what does it really do to a lot of people? Now, it's a pros and cons. It's controversial conversation. I think when someone can live up to an expectation and have the responsibility of being a captain or being an ace or being your designated closer or designated cleanup spot person, it makes you feel like someone believes in you. Makes them makes you feel like that you are gonna get the spotlight that you deserve. You worked your entire career to get to this part where whatever your role should be, you've earned it. And you now is seen as a value to an organization. I think to a profile, to a resume, this could be very declarative in maybe position negotiations, contract negotiation. On the downside, it adds that extra amount of pressure that not everyone is built to live up to that standard, especially these young players who are performing well, they get called upon. And I say this because Chase Burns yet again had a solid 6 innings outing. We've been praising him on this show for the past few weeks. And it tells me that he is the only guy right now on this rotation that I trust getting the ball every 5 days and that could give us, win or lose, a solid outing, which means it's not necessarily taking some off the relaxing our bullpen, but it takes a little bit off. You feel confident. And I feel like that's what we need a little bit more. A few weeks ago, I threw him in the mix in the crowd of the NL Cy Young Award possible candidate for this season. And I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of great pitchers out there in the National League. Shohei Ohtani, and uh, you also got Paul Skeens. And I think the conversation becomes, well, that's just what it is. He would have to have a lights out performance moving forward. But Chase Burns is a young guy. He's a guy that reminds me a lot like Hunter Green when he came up to the big leagues. He's filling into this ace role caliber pitcher very nicely. But Terry Francona doesn't put him in the conversation as naming him the ace. And he doesn't really want to do that. They want to just ride that momentum and continue. He feels that the moment that they end up titling somebody, the momentum dies off. And I gotta agree with you. At the end of the day, baseball is a team effort. It takes the entire team. I feel like titling a player for the Cincinnati Reds at this moment, at least, is something that is becomes a distraction to fixing our overall problem. Our overall problem is that we have gray areas among this organization that we need to address and fix. And until we got to focus on that, and until solve those issues, naming a dedicated ninth inning closer, naming 1 to 2 guys that you could send in the eighth inning to set up a safe situation, naming a solidified you know, cleanup hitter in our lineup or leadoff hitter in our lineup is not necessary. We know that there are certain positions and there's certain spots in the lineup that belongs to certain players. We know that, but for me, it's an unofficial title that doesn't need to be made. So I don't know. I mean, if you're, I don't know, maybe you're the Yankees. You're in a different position than the Reds can be in. You can maybe worry about creating those titles, creating those roles, and placing people into that. And that may benefit us, benefit that ball club. But the Reds have so much to worry about that a title, a role, if whether you're an ace, you're close. One, we don't play that way. And two, we're not in the position to even wanting to announce that. So that's where I kind of just stand ahead of that here. Take a look at what's going on in the National League Central. Yesterday, the Milwaukee Brewers beat the Chicago Cubs 5-2. It was the final score. They have solely taken over the first place spot in the division. The Cubs moved to third place behind the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Cardinals and the Cubs are just a half a game back of Milwaukee. St. Louis also won their division rival game last night. The final score was concluded in 10 innings as they beat the Pirates 9-6. Ivan Herrera hits a walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth inning. And, every team still in the NL Central is either playing 500 baseball or better, which is still great. It's the fact that we're at the end of the month of May and we can still say that, I think is something remarkable. Now, I look at this division, maybe this is something we get into more at length tomorrow in that episode. But Milwaukee, who I thought maybe was not going to maintain their stamina, finds himself in first place. St. Louis, who we didn't predict any of this to happen, is holding their ground in the middle of this division, more so at the upper end of this division. And it's a fun division to watch, a division that doesn't get a lot of attention, normally gets overpassed. As a matter of fact, the Dodgers and the Padres still get more views. The Braves get more views. Even the Mets, who will find themselves at the bottom of the NL East, get more views than what the NL Central does. So I love the battle. I think the battle is great. Games continue today. Division rivals continue this evening. As not only the Reds play at 105, but Milwaukee and Chicago at 740. 7:45, the Pirates and the Cardinals will take way, and that will conclude today's National League Central Lookout. Let's take a look at what's going on in the NBA. NBA playoffs last night. We saw the New York Knicks beat the Cleveland Cavaliers with in overtime. Final score 115 to 104. And tonight we will see the San Antonio Spurs take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Spurs are out to a 1-0 early lead in this series. Tip off is at 8:30 and it's available on NBC. And the only thing that I can really right now say about the NBA is more so along the Knicks and in relation to the WWE, specifically with Danhausen, who has lifted this curse off the Knicks, makes it almost believable that that the Knicks will win the NBA championship this season. Do you think Danhausen's curse lift off the New York Knicks have catapulted their performance in the NBA playoffs to where they're at now? And realistically, what are their chances of winning the NBA championship? Let me know down in the comments. The NHL playoffs continue tonight as the Golden State Warriors and the Colorado Avalanche begin their series. Puck drops at 8 p.m. on ESPN. For more information on NBA and NHL playoff stats, scores, and news, check out CBSSports.com. Big 12 Conference tournament is here. Began yesterday as BYU number 9 beat number 12 Texas Tech, final score 18-8. And number 11 Kansas State beat Utah 9-5. Both teams who won yesterday will advance into today's game, and those losers who lost yesterday have concluded for the season. Today, we see two games in the Big 12 Conference. This series is a one-and-done deal. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN Plus, you can check out Game 3, where number 8 Baylor hosts number 9 BYU. And at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN Plus, we can see TCU host Kansas State. The winner of BYU and Baylor will go on to take on Kansas in tomorrow's gameplay, while the winner of Kansas State and TCU will go on to take on West Virginia in the one-game elimination tournament. The Cincinnati Bearcats will host the Arizona State at 11 p.m. on ESPNU tomorrow night. That is your Big 12 Conference tournament update. I gotta say, we're moving right along with this program. Kind of scares me a little bit because I'm in my other conversations. There's about 5 more takes that I have to possibly stretch out accordingly to fit the rest of the time. Normally, I'm kind of playing the catch-up game, right? But I don't know. Time's flying slow in this episode. I'll tell you that. All right. So this is the conversation that I want to open up to get your thoughts. This is relations to the WWE and TKO. Over the recent several weeks, we've seen WWE release a handful of superstars and talents from their roster. And it was revealed that some of the releases earlier this year came at the expense of refusing to take a pay cut that TKO is implementing in the WWE. And so I am curious. So for my narrative, for what I can take away from this, TKO is asking WWE talents up to 50% of what they were originally making. So if you're bringing in $1 million a year, you would be asked to take a cut to $500,000 a year. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of the contracts, what it includes, what it doesn't include. If, how much out of pocket do you have to honestly cover, if at all? What I do know is that, that is $500,000 out of someone's pocket for their performance. Over the past several years, WWE has made shifts to change and adapt to today's time and labor crisis. One of those shifts results in less performances. So I got to ask you the question. All right. This is, if you are an NBA player and you are signing a contract with, let's say, the Cavaliers, and for $10 million, they're signing you, anticipating for you to perform all 82 games throughout the regular season, and then whatever if you guys make it to the playoffs. Doesn't and if you're not on the court, I mean, there are some contracts that if you're not playing, you don't get paid, or you only get paid per game that you play. But does that not work in the WWE? The WWE used to have house shows, used to have a lot of these social events, and over the years, they have slowly died out. There's less house shows, which means there's more whenever someone gets time in the ring, it's crucial. They don't always get a chance to work on their craft, which I feel is a con to all of this, because I feel like in order to become a better athlete, you have to be every day constantly working on your craft. Well, these house shows allowed storylines to build and to for people to familiarize with their work down on non-televised shows. If it falls through, then they bring it up to the main roster and run with it. And if it not, that's where they practice. That's where room for error takes place, and you better your craft by doing that. That's my opinion on it. I will stand by that opinion. When the WWE takes that away because it's too expensive or it's too much for the talent, well, you take away, therefore less productivity or less greater performances are not provided in the ring on these shows. But then if you're taking that away, you're also asking them to take a pay cut. Where is that room for them to be able to make a living? You talk about the travel and the expenses that it takes to get from one city to another, the travel to and from locations to home, the travel, the ring gear equipment, personal TLC care, memberships of gyms and whatnot they have to keep them in shape. And on top of that, whatever, that's just them. What about whatever's going on in their family and for their families? The WWE has a little bit more tight ship. There was an article out there that indicated that AEW, TNA, and even JCW allows their fans to make public appearances, allows their fans under agreement contracts to wrestle outside their company. They also allow other entities for these talents to be able to make money when they're especially when they're not being used in creative storyline. So my question is to you, if TKO continues to do this, if the WWE is expected to continue this, should those alternatives be open and validated for current WWE stars? I don't know. Where does the boundary lie in this conversation? Well, I don't think I think the bottom draw would be things like profanity, things like OnlyFans, things like anything that would get them that would put a negative impact. But talent should be able to have those second options. You know, okay, so let's take this. My sister-in-law works a full-time job. She gets paid and she goes to her work and she does her job. On her after out of her job, she has a hobby. She loves painting and doing people's nails. She likes to create acrylics and sell them. And it's a light side little hobby that she's not going to make, she's not making millions off of it. This isn't her primary job. She still goes to a 9 to 5 job, but she's entitled to have a life outside of work. And that doesn't paint her creating nails doesn't create that negative image on her. So her job is obligated. It's like you show up to your job, you do your job, and whatever you do on your own time is your own business, as long as you don't tarnish our company's name or do anything that we would have to take action for, so be it. Well, similar to WWE. You wrestle. If you want to go appear to an autograph signing that is with a different promotion, then you shouldn't have to jump through hoops in order to do it. I think this was on the coach and the Coach and Bro show. This article was written by Ringside News. And I feel, especially if you're asking them to take a pay cut where their financial situation is affected because you don't also include taxes at take now, that public appearances should be, if they see an opportunity, take it. Whatever measures should be allowed. Like I said, I don't know where that fine line draws in the sand. I'm not saying that TKO or the WWE hasn't already allowed something like that to happen. I don't personally see it often. But, down here in Northern Kentucky, there's a wrestling program called NWF. And there are alumni who have grown up and became made a name for themselves, appeared on TNA, appear on the WWE in some sort of role or fashion. And it's nice to be able to see them outside of the WWE supporting what they love. And if a talent wants to do that, they should have the right to do it. If they want to have ability to make money, you know, for example, I'm gonna throw this out there, and I don't want to go back, throw any names under the bus, but there is TNA. There's a wrestler of the Abyss, okay, and he is now, or at least from last time I heard, he is part of the creative team at WWE, and he was just inducted to the NWF Hall of Fame a couple years ago. To be able to see him there, shake his hand, he could have went down there and sold, he could have got a cut from the promotion knowing that this is a Hall of Fame for him and he's being inducted. This could have been a promotion where he could have sold, photos, autographs, and memorabilia. If athletes want to do that, they should be willing to do it. If there has to be some sort of policy in place where they don't violate it, then that's one thing. But especially in the presence of cutting their staff's payroll. I don't know. What do you guys think? All right, new updating news. This is from 411 Mania, an article written by PW Insider Elite that claims that the John Cena Classic is pushing to be something that's going to take place in the back half of this calendar year. So back at WWE Backlash, John Cena comes out, announces that there is going to be a tournament called the John Cena Classic. It's going to be a combination of past, current, and future stars, giving opportunities for winners and losers to make a name for themselves, inspired by his career. And he also exclaimed that it's still in negotiations. Nothing is locked in, confirmed. There's no date. So there was a WWE built a hype on this upcoming event, uncertain about the future of the upcoming event. Well, one thing that they do have a goal in mind, and their goal is to have this tournament and whatever fine details it consists of to highlight wrestlers in the back end of the year. Now, I've shared my opinion on tournaments. I think that these tournaments, these memorial battle royals, the fact that something is named after a wrestler when it comes down to these events, I think they're wonderful. It highlights and it recognizes their legacy and their impact in this professional sport. I feel like a little bit that professional wrestling will take it to the next level and start naming everything. But to my understanding, this does not sound like something they're just going to throw out there. And I don't think that the integrity and the reputation of John Cena will allow the WWE just to throw anything out there on the table for a quick buck. You think of a tournament, you think of a classic, I think of something that goes on for about 2-3 months. You have several rounds that include opportunities for talents, and then it gets spread out through shows. I couldn't envision one night of just the John Cena Classic. Just doesn't fit my understanding. It's a slow progress, and we'll keep you up to date as we learn more information. But as we know right now, we could hopefully expect to see this by the end of 2026. All right. So I had some time to think about this. And yesterday we spilled out the show that Brock Lesnar returned on Raw and attacked Obafemi. Paul Heyman meets Adam Pearce in the background, in the backstage area, hands him a one-day contract for Brock Lesnar to get his revenge on Obafemi. Now, my initial opinion on all of this is that Brock Lesnar did one or two things that we are uncertain of. From what the WWE is presenting is that Brock Lesnar's retired and that he is hand selecting this match as a retired athlete. Or the WWE or Brock Lesnar is teasing the WWE universe in thinking that he is going to retire. We've seen that happen time and time again. And yet, and all he did was fool everybody. Now, regardless if he's retired or not, there is the understanding that he will be competing next Saturday at the Clash in Italy against Obafemi. The reason behind that, I think it's very transparent. Brock Lesnar was humiliated at WrestleMania 42 by Obafemi and seeks revenge. It doesn't matter if Obafemi is the ruler of the jungle. I don't think it matters if Obafemi is the next big thing. The bottom line is that Obafemi manhandled Brock Lesnar, who's been the beast of professional wrestling for the past 2.5 decades. And Brock Lesnar, if you know anything about Brock Lesnar, he's not going to lay down, roll over, and let someone just shut him up. At least he's not going down without a fight. So that's what this feud to me presents itself. Now, whether or not it's a good idea or not, whether or not people want Brock Lesnar to be retired or not, there are speculations on that we could see a little bit more Brock Lesnar, but I think the image shown at WrestleMania 42 is that Brock Lesnar is at some point of his career where he feels like a retirement, walking off into the sunset is in his very seen future. And I'm okay with that. I think at WrestleMania 42, we did establish that that Obafemi and Brock Lesnar passed on the torch to that. Obafemi is the new beast of the WWE, is the ruler of the jungle. Just because that happens doesn't mean Brock Lesnar's done yet. So, how does this feud pan out? And why does this feud pan out? Well, we obviously know Brock Lesnar's motive. And I don't think Obafemi is going to back down from a challenge, especially if he was able to beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 42 as fast as he did, as easily as he did. He didn't break a sweat doing it. But for Oba, what is he doing right now? He's had these open challenges and mediocre talent, no disrespect to them, but mediocre talent has been the only ones to step up, and they felt the wrath. It came to the conclusion that no one wanted to step up last Monday, forcing Obafemi to find his own opponents. So if Obafemi is not going after the World Heavyweight Champion, not after the WWE Championship, not after any titles at all, and there's really no one wanting to step up to Obafemi, well, why not tackle on Brock Lesnar? Question is what is best for business to see how this goes? So let's fast forward to Clash in Italy and play a little bit of devil's advocate. Brock Lesnar comes in and beats Obafemi, evening the squads. It almost presents itself a one more final match. And from what I've seen with Obafemi, he doesn't wait around months to get what he wants. I don't think SummerSlam is until August from my last time I checked. Are we going to understand that June, July, and then August for a one last match that is possible? Or could we see the third and final match heading into the Saudi Arabia event next month? It's one of those storylines where we don't need to wait around too long to see it. The story is already there. The tale of the tape has already been set. We just need to see who's the better man. And if Brock Lesnar wins, now the score is even at one apiece. You have to find yourself the winner. And here's if Brock Lesnar wins at Clash of Italy, what does that do to Obafemi? Well, everything that you built him up has kind of been put down again. Think about it this way. I mean, you built Obafemi up to be the ruler of the jungle, the next big thing in the WWE, and now that momentum comes to a halt, and he loses at Clash of Italy. He may have a right to come back and take the last final word in match number 3, but then now you're rebuilding that momentum all up from scratch again. So this past 3 months have been a waste of time for what they're trying to build for Obafemi. And, if it works, it works. It may work because, as I mentioned, there's really there's really nothing in the future right now for Oba to see. But I think it does a lot. You take 5 steps back if you see Brock Lesnar win and beat Obafemi next Saturday. Now, here's another possible idea that we can run off of. Clash in Italy, we see Oba yet again beat Brock Lesnar. Oba solidifies his placement among the WWE roster, and what you do then is creating a doubtful Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar that's going to question who he is. Is he still capable of being the beast? Which could then tell this ongoing story for whatever future he has next, that whoever his next opponent could be following Clash in Italy, he has to win. He has to prove to himself that he still has what it takes. He loses a second time to Obafemi. He questions himself. He doubts himself in if he still is able to go the distance. Which, if that's a storyline that the WWE is could look into, that creates a pivotal opportunity for a specific ring general who's been notorious over the last year retiring athletes. Let's not forget that the WWE SummerSlam is going to be held in Michigan. And there are, as of right now, just speculations that Brock Lesnar is planning on retiring soon. Possibly a date is in Michigan and could ring the ring general. And I know he's been associated with this, be the one to officially put Brock Lesnar into retirement. What that would do for Brock Lesnar, what that will do for a situation like that. For me, if I got to select what that next 3 months looks like, that's how I would plan it out. Gunther, you know, had this favor owed to him from Paul Heyman. It's proclaimed that it's been achieved by Paul Heyman going over to SmackDown and giving him a title shot. But is that really what the favor is? Imagine Gunther adding a retired Brock Lesnar to his resume. Thought that would be very interesting to say. All right. Well, the AF new report in the NFL on CBS Sports, written by Tyler Sullivan, gives an update on this on AFC teams and their grades for the offseason. I was going to jump right down into the AFC North. Start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This article gave the Steelers a C+ for their offseason adjustments. Think about their additions. Michael Pittman, which will be a great wide receiver to whoever's quarterback. Jermaine Bernard, who's also a wide receiver. They picked up a quarterback in the draft in Drew Aller. And I think we're still just trying to figure out what the future of Aaron Rodgers still is. Is he going to be a Steelers, or is he going to retire? Or is he going to go to a different team? But they have a new coach. We could see Aaron Rodgers reunite with Mike McCarthy. But the bottom line is that we have a new coach. And it looks like I'm going to have to update myself because I haven't. Let me just see here. So it does look like, I'll stand corrected, it does look like Aaron Rodgers will be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers and with Mike McCarthy. And so, all right, so now we have that answer associated with the Steelers. Still a C+, maybe even a B-. The Ravens, they picked up Trey Hendrickson, they picked up Zion Young, they picked up Jacoby Lane, and with also a new head coach as well. I mean, that's a solid grading. The Bengals, they gave it a B. They had to focus desperately on defensive players, and that's what they did. They gave up Henderson, Stone, and Osai for Lawrence, Allen, Mafe, Cook, and Howell, are just notables. And the Browns, they give them an A. I think it's all great and all that they are giving them these grades, but I think it's at the expense of until we see something on the field, right? If you look at it today, May 20th of 2026, we're vastly approaching the season. What grade level would you give the AFC North teams in their offseason moves? I have to agree with each and every one of them. I'd probably lower the Browns grade, but I have to agree with most of it. All right, what I want to do, this is going to be something I'll carry over into tomorrow's episode, but I want to give you a rundown of the primetime games of the NFL schedule in 2026. Just last week, I believe, that the 2026 roster was revealed in its entirely. And there's a lot of things that point to our attention. And trust me, by the end of all of this, I have a point that I'm wanting to present out to you. But we'll start off with the NFL Network. Okay, on those games, week 4, we have the a 9:30 game in London. In week 5, we have a 9:30 game or in London as well. In week 4, it's the Colts and the Commanders. The week 5, there's the Eagles and Jaguars. In week 6, it's a London game between the Texans and Jaguars at 9:30 in the morning. Week 7 is the St. Denis in France game, Steelers and Saints at 9:30 a.m. And in week 9, we see the Madrid game at 9:30 a.m., Bengals and Falcons. And so the NFL network is going to host a lot of the international games, respectfully so. There is a special 9:30 in the morning start times. It is exclusively if you have the NFL network, and nothing is going to change that this season. Let's go to Thursday night football. Week 2 is when it officially starts. We have the Lions and Bills, Falcons and Packers, Steelers and Browns, Buccaneers and Cowboys, Seahawks and Broncos, Patriots and Bears, Panthers and Packers, Jaguars and Ravens, Commanders and Giants, Colts and Texans, Broncos and Steelers, Chiefs and Rams, Vikings and Patriots, 49ers and Chargers, Texans and Eagles, and the special December 31st one, Ravens and Bengals. Now, the Thursday night football doesn't really change all that much. I don't, because if you play earlier, if you have that plan ahead, they don't change that in the midst of the season. It usually typically stays the same. I say focus on that because these are games that, when you get later in the season, you worry about, well, is this a playoff implication game? So what games out of Thursday night football are we kind of just gravitating to early on? I like the Ravens and Bengals. I think that's going to be a great game. I think it'll probably be the biggest game of Thursday night football this year, especially if both teams are competing for a playoff spot, especially for an AFC North division. You also got the 49ers and Chargers, which could be very interesting. The Chiefs and Rams. Also questionable, Broncos and Steelers, which that is the Black Friday game, I believe. Right? November 27th. Then you see a couple division ones, which I always like to see with, the Commanders, Giants, Colts, Texans. There's a couple games that just don't bring me attention. And I think when it comes down to Thursday night football, the very first game of that week kind of sets the pace, sets the tone for what that weekend looks like. So I'm looking at marquee matchups. I'm looking at teams that are been there, it's going to bring the, Lions and Bills. Definitely a great start to that. Falcons and Packers, I question that. Steelers and Browns kind of is better than the Falcons and Packers, in my opinion. I don't know where the Buccaneers and Cowboys are going to be at. The Steelers and Browns are above the Cowboys, but again, it's the Cowboys. Seahawks and Broncos, same thing. It depends where they're going to be at this year. So I think that the NFL tried to do good, but I'm not too sure about that. All right, Monday night games. These are also games that don't typically change a whole lot. Now, I don't see any double Monday night features, but let's go down the list. We have the Broncos and Chiefs, the Giants and Rams, Eagles and Bears, Falcons and Saints, Bills and Rams, Commanders and 49ers, Cowboys and Eagles, Bears and Seahawks, Bills and Vikings, Chargers, Ravens, Bengals, Commanders, Panthers and Buccaneers, Cowboys, Seahawks, Steelers and Jaguars, Patriots and Chiefs, Giants and Lions, and Texans and Packers. Now, when I think of a Monday night game, I'm thinking of a game that is going to wrap up that week. It's kind of that statement that you put on to conclude and to tap off. Hey, here's the icing on the cake. If you had fun so far this year, this is the icing on the cake. Couple interesting matchups I see. Yet again, I look at division rivalries. I look at top tier teams. And I'm not saying that these teams aren't validated for being on a Monday Night Football, but where is that interest? I mean, week 15 really will depend between the Patriots and Chiefs if Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs can make a comeback as well. The back end of the season, it's going to question whether or not you have if you're competing for a division championship or for a wild card spot, and you hope that the matchups are predictable. Now, these ones are expected, especially the back end of the year, to be changed, especially as maybe one game can determine if they could make or break a division. And the last but not least, Sunday Night Football, you'll see towards the end of this season, towards the end of the season, schedules will be changed to highlight the primetime teams. So we kick off with the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Cowboys and Giants, Colts and Chiefs, the Rams and Broncos, the Lions and Panthers, the Ravens and Falcons, the Cowboys and Packers, the Chiefs and Seahawks, Eagles and Commanders, Buccaneers and Bears, Steelers and Bengals, Vikings and 49ers, Chiefs and Bills, Patriots and Chargers, the Texans and Steelers, the Bills and Packers, the Lions and Vikings, Jaguars and Cowboys, and the Eagles and the 49ers. Now, couple games that point out for me. I think early on, I like the Patriots and Seahawks. I don't think you could go wrong with the Cowboys and Giants. You have two quarterbacks in week 2 that deal with coming off of injuries. Daniel Jones and Patrick Mahomes. That's a story of its own. The Rams and Broncos. I don't know about that story and where that narrative comes from. Lions and Panthers as well. Ravens and Falcons. Where are the narratives to hyping up the Sunday Night Football early on in the season? Now, this is just my take, okay? It may be completely different from you. But I honestly believe that primetime games belong to high elevated caliber situations. High-end division rivals. We want to see anything that has the Cowboys or the Eagles in it. Anything that has the Patriots and the Seahawks, as they were in the Super Bowl last year. They kind of get the center of attention. The Chiefs were a team that looks to bounce back, as well as the Lions. I'd focus on that. And then what are other good matchups? I mean, you have the Bengals, the Ravens inclusive. And what I do appreciate heading into this season is that not all 32 teams have gotten a primetime game. And I can appreciate that. I just question if that's the best options they have according to that schedule in that primetime situation. And like I've been said over the last 10 minutes repetitively, is that what we will see here is that as the season progresses, we get down into December, Sunday Night Football, along with Monday Night Football, will be changed to help focus and highlight teams that are contending for a spot, a wild card spot, a division win. So I can expect teams to move along and be removed and adjusted, right? If the Jaguars and the Cowboys are not playing good football, guess what? They're not going to have Sunday Night Football on week 16. If the Ravens, if another division is looking to seal in a deal, they're going to put that under the lights. So what do you guys think of the 2026 primetime schedule? We will post all those details on our social media page. So head on over there, like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for that. Let me know your thoughts. Is there any particular games that you're intrigued, that pops out saying, I got to tune in that day, that time for those teams? And how does that affect your fan base? Are you upset? Are you a Jets fan? Are you upset that your team is not on there? Let me know down in the comments below. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. We will continue this type of conversation in the category tomorrow. I want to head into some Bengals conversation about it as well. But please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate your guys' support. It's all helpful. Like I say, you check us out on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at TNC Sports Talk. You can also download us and take us on the road wherever you go by listening to us on the TNC Sports Talk. Anywhere you get your audio platforms of podcasting needs on, please check us out and listen to every episode. We'll be back again tomorrow from noon to 1. Thank you guys for tuning into the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.